Hey technicians, it's Jen from Draftline, and today I'm going to give you the quick tutorial on how to use the Draftline Smart System mobile application. First thing I need you to do is go to the App Store if you have an iOS device, or the Google Play Store if you have an Android-based device, and download the Draftline Smart System mobile application. Just search for Draftline in the top search bar and that will bring it up. Once you've downloaded the mobile application to your device, you are going to take a look at your startup paperwork that Tracy and your team members have in the office for you, and you're going to input the email address that we've assigned to you and also your password, and you're just going to click log in. So once you log in, you will see your route for Monday, which is going to be our startup date. And this is just reflective of the way you should be running your route already. So this is a test account. However, for you, you'll see your actual line cleanings, and you just start at the top and you work your way down throughout the day. If you come across something that has been uploaded incorrectly, or you say, that's not right on either the checklist or the system builder, there's something that our records don't jive with, what we want you to do is call Tracy back at the office, or whoever your team member is that you're working with directly. They'll get a hold of us and we'll change it. You're always welcome to contact us directly, but the better we have the flow of communication through your admins in the office, the better it is for everybody long term. So let's just concentrate on that for now, and if we need to address any flow of information, we'll cover that later. So let me show you what a line cleaning looks like on Draftline. So let's do Zola Bistro. We'll click on that, and that will bring us to what we call the overview page. You can get directions to your location, you can call, you can email. Some of this info might not be there for all of your accounts, but right now we're working on vetting the mobile application for your business practices, so we may not have everything included. So also under the date, we've got the date and time that is preferred for the line cleaning to be occurring. Under that, we have the trip title, line cleaning at Zola Bistro. Once we get down the road, we're going to start doing service trips through this application as well. So at a point later in time, I want you to start to pay attention to what type of trip that you're receiving. But right now, for the first 2 weeks, it's all going to be line cleaning. We also have this box here that notes if the account has some special item that you need to be aware of. For this test service center, we tell them to collect $65 because they're COD. And for instance, 3030 pound, that's the code. That is something that maybe you're going to see down the road for entry into a location, something like that. So just be aware that there is a spot there where some pertinent information could pop up, and we'll go from there. Underneath that, the technicians assigned to the line cleaning. All of your line cleanings right now are just going to have you as the one foreman technician. The little person by Jason LeBranch's name, that means he's the foreman. If you don't see that on any of your trips and you're the only person assigned to those trips, that's an upload error, but I'm sure that we've vetted everything, and for the first 2 weeks, you're going to have your little foreman icon there. That becomes important later, because if we don't have that foreman icon, the checkout options won't pop up. The foreman is responsible for setting the trip status on all the trips at the end of the trip, and that is something that's very key to our reporting at the end of the day. So we want to make sure we're seeing that. So as we navigate through the mobile application, we're just going to be navigating from the bottom bar, and you will see just to the right of the blue info dot, task. We want to click on that next, and we're just going to work our way left to right on everything really, but through the mobile application as well. So first thing you're going to see are safety guidelines, and we are working with hazardous chemicals here that are very strong, so we want to make sure the takeaway from this, always, 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 glasses and gloves. I always want you to wear your glasses and your gloves when you're out in the field working with cleaning products. So once we make sure that we have our proper attire on, and also we arrive at the location. So once we hit that parking lot, before you have unloaded, before you're in the location, before you start the job, once you're in the lot, we want to have you hit the check-in button. So this starts the time accounting for how long it actually takes to perform a service at this location. And when we send our reporting out to our customers, when our admins see this reporting, we want to make sure that this is as accurate as possible. And for Draftline, the definition of a service is the time you hit the parking lot to the time you leave the parking lot. So we're going to check in when we arrive at an account. After we have loaded up, after the service is totally completed, when we're about to drive off, that's when we check out. So check in when you get there, check out when you leave. And we want that to be reflective because the generating of the reports that we do on Draftline, it never looks good to have a 1-minute service time unless it's no work performed, which we will get into later. So check in, and then we're going to move to the bubbles. And these are our line cleaning and faucet checklists. So let's just hop into it. Click the first gray bubble. That's going to take us to what we have established as a glycol system. As you work your way through the first 2 weeks of our cycle on your line cleaning trips, if you see any system builder information, and this is a virtual system builder, we literally build the beer system within the program. So it's either glycol, air-cooled, or direct draw. If you see any information on these boxes that is incorrect, funnel that back to the office or us, and we'll get that taken care of for you ASAP. That would be fantastic. So you click on the bar, and you are going to see the line cleaning steps that we need to perform. So every single line cleaning you do, first 4 steps is going to be regular maintenance. Doesn't matter if it's static or recirculation. Now, my understanding from Tracy is that the vast majority of your line cleanings are static. 97% of the market cleans that way, so that's fine. So when you are cleaning for your distributors, you're going to click regular maintenance. If you use a recirc pump, you can click that, and then you don't have to click static, but most of the time it's going to be static. And only quarterly when you do your acid, that's when you'll click acid. This, again, pulls to reports, so it's very important that we make sure that we're putting in good information to the mobile application so we can have good compliance reports for our wholesalers. But that's really it. We're tracking the line cleaning process and what actually happened, and we're going to click the little green circle with a check mark. That's our line cleaning steps. Now, you will notice under line it says partially completed. Well, it actually says partially. It will always say that because you're never going to perform all of those steps. This is nothing that goes back to the reporting on the dashboard side. This is simply a visual indicator, so you do not have to click back through the screens. You can see that you already, went to that part of the program and input your checklist. So it's perfectly fine, and I don't want anyone to worry that's saying, hey, it says partially completed. It's always going to say that, and we know that, and that's fine. So that's just to speed you up. Now, let's move to faucet. Now, this is incredibly important for your service center because you are a third-party outsource provider to a plethora of beer wholesalers throughout the country. So what we need to make sure of is that on this checklist at the bottom, you are only verifying that you've cleaned the faucets that you've actually serviced for your wholesalers. So first, we're going to say all of the following are completed. And this is just basically taking apart the faucets, putting them back together, and making sure everything looks good with the ID handle and that they're functional. Now, if you were in a location where you cleaned every single faucet, you could click the apply to 10 faucets. But that's not going to be the case in the vast majority of your line cleanings. So what you're going to do, and this is key, so everybody listen up. Whenever we label our faucet surveys, and I know you're already doing this, so we're already way ahead of the game. When you stand in front of the tower, bartender view, you're always going left to right. So you stand in front of the tower, bartender view, left to right. The farthest faucet left is 1, the next one's 2, and so on and so on and so on. So number 1's always going to be on your left all the way up to number 10. Now, at the first cycle of service, which is what this next 2 weeks is going to bring for us, you are only going to see faucet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You are not going to see the brand names like I've entered down here at the bottom of the screen. You are going through this first cycle so you can populate all those things. And those things will change, and we'll get into how we do that later. But the main takeaway from this page that I want you to know is, number 1, we are going to label all of our faucets left to right. Right now, we're not going to be tracking competitor brands because, well, for several reasons, but even when we do our faucet survey, if there is faucet 1 is Budweiser, faucet 2 is a competitive product, we're going to put open on that so we have a placeholder. So if we ever go back to that and it becomes one of your lines that you're servicing, we can fill in accordingly. So for the purpose of this is we're going to say we cleaned faucet 1, all the Bud products, and there we have it. So you're just verifying on a faucet survey left to right the faucets you cleaned. If the number of faucets here is not correct, that's something we'll cover on the next screen, but also that's something that you can contact us back on the cloud for. That's why we want to give you our contact information. But also if Tracy wants you to go through her, just send it through her. She'll get it to us and we'll get it out to you. So we're going to click the round green button again and we're going to move forward with the program. Now, notes are always from this section, and you can say hi, you can add photos, you can take a photo from your camera roll, because if you're sitting in a walk-in cooler, it's a Faraday cage, no waves move through it, you're not going to get signal and you're going to have to add it from your camera roll. So not a big deal, and you just send back to the dashboard and this will save to the trip ticket, especially if there's a problem with service, broken gaskets on doors, something affecting the beer system. We always want to make the note of it here because it's time-stamped and it saves back to the trip report and it just makes it so clean. We want to make sure that we have that. So back to the rest of the trip. I hit the wrong button. I kicked myself out. But this is good because you can see on this trips page here is that it shows that we're checked in. So that little blue circle with the arrow in the bracket, that means this trip is live. We're checked into it. And the admins back at the office can see that we're in process at this location. So on the bubbles, we've done our checklist. I've shown you how to take a note. We're now going to go over to system on the bottom, more towards the right, but not all the way right. And this is an incredibly important page, so I want you to listen up because this is the page that drives our revenue that we charge all of our wholesalers for our service. So we want to make sure that the information we put into this is correct as possible. This is totally reflective of the page that I just showed you. The page that I just showed you with faucet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and the Budweiser products at the bottom. We verified the ones that we've serviced, but this is how we enter the names. So for instance, right here, we're going to do a faucet change, and let me show you how I did that. We just go to faucet number 1, we slide across with our thumb, we click on the pencil, and this one has a brand that's from another test center, but we're going to back that out. And let's say we type in Budweiser. We are going to populate your drop-down list. These lists are different than the ones you guys will have on your specific service center. However, all the brands that you are used to tracking should appear in the drop-down list. That being said, if we get to the point where we're doing a faucet survey on competitive brands, you have the flexibility that you can type in any name you need to and save that. So you're not locked into the drop-down list. But for the sake of speed, we want to have those first 3 letters typed in and bring up our drop-down. So for instance, I'm going to check Budweiser. Then I will say next in the bottom right-hand corner. That's all you're going to put in. The distributor, you're going to leave up to Tracy and my team back on the cloud to put in the distributor. We have great brand lists. We know where we need to be. So don't worry about that. So it's literally this middle box is where we're taking your information that you are inputting for every faucet at each of the locations that you go to. If it is a competitive brand, we'll cover that on the next demo here. So for this one, we're just going to do Budweiser. Distributor, you're going to leave blank. On the next date of service, these are going to be pre-populated, but we'll make sure that's all good for you. And then the notes, I never want you to use this notes section. We have the other notes section, so no notes on your faucet edit requests. It's a long story, but just trust me, we're not going to be tracking the notes from this section. So we're going to click OK. That's going to send a brand change for that faucet back to the dashboard, and that's how we filter through all your information. So right now you're not going to see the change. We have to accept it back on the dashboard, and once that happens, you'll go back in here and you'll see Budweiser on faucet 1. So let's say faucet 2 is a competitive brand. We're going to take our thumb, slide across, click on the pencil. We're just going to say open to signify that there is a faucet there, but right now we're not concerned with what's on it. And we click OK. And again, next time you go in, you're going to see faucet number 1 is Budweiser, faucet number 2 is open. Now, one of the reasons why I added these brands at the bottom is that I want to show you what it looks like when we edit a brand that's already existing. So I know this will never happen, but say Hensley loses a line to a competitor, say it's Crescent Crown. So we're going to go in here and we backed everything out and we put Miller Lite. Okay, that's it. You literally just back it out. And then again at the next date of service that will populate. The other thing you could do, and this is going to be somewhat up to Tracy, is we could also just mark that as open. So we back it out and we can just say open because it's no longer our faucet that we're concerned with. You click OK, that goes back to the dashboard. So again, always, always, always bartender view, left to right. We want to make sure that we're putting those faucets in the correct order so we do not have a debacle on the next date of service and that nobody has to change anything. So bartender view, left to right, start with faucet 1 and work your way down. First time you service, you're not going to see all the name brands. They're going to pop up on your next date of service, which is going to be 2 weeks out. So that being said, if you get into a location and the number of faucets doesn't match, there's another thing we can do, which again, if we're adding, we're going left to right. And if we add a faucet, we slide across on tower. So we slide across on tower, the green plus box pops up, you click it, and you add a faucet. And this is going to add all the way to the right at the end. So we want to make sure we do that all in order. And let's say this one is, and I don't even know how to say this one. I'm just picking it off your brand list. All right. And then next, you're not going to be inputting the brands, or the distributors, I mean, so we don't need to worry about that. So just get that brand name in on that new faucet, click OK. Again, that sends it off back to the cloud. We'll verify everything against the brand list we have. So once we have entered all of our faucet survey information, holding spaces for competitor faucets with the name open, we then click on expenses. And this is kind of a misnomer for you guys because you're not going to be using the expenses portion, which is this, until down the road. But for right now, what Tracy really does want you to do, we all want to make Tracy happy, is we're going to click this pencil. And this is how we're going to capture the signature of the person at the place that, at the location that we're servicing. So you click in the name box with your finger, and for this, it would be preferable to at least get the last name of the person. I'm just going to put my first name in because everyone knows I'm me. They're going to sign at the very bottom of the screen. Up in the top right-hand corner, we're going to click Done. And that's it. That shoots back, again, saves to the trip ticket, and we're going to go back to our tasks page because really we've clicked through and we've performed all of the tasks here. Now, one other thing. Once you are up to speed, 95% of these trips are only going to take you 25 seconds start to finish. The biggest thing on the first 2-week cycle is getting all the brands in. That's going to be the most time-consuming part. In that situation, normally what we do is if you have a location that, World of Beer, Yard House, something that has tons and tons of brands, what we want you to do is neatly handwrite a list out with all your brands on your faucet survey in order and either send that to Tracy, preferably, or us, and we will get that in for you. If you have anything that's over say 15, 20 faucets, that's an instance where we like to step in to help you guys to keep you moving throughout your day. And I highly recommend that you pass that information through Tracy to us so we can help you get it in. If you know, if Tracy says it has to go through her, do it that way, because we like, again, to keep that flow of communication through the manager. If she gets overwhelmed at any point, you'll hear from us and you'll be able to send it to us directly. But for right now, keep that flow through her. Anything 15, 20 faucets or more on a location, we want to help you through that. So let's go back to the overview page, and keeping in mind that, and I'm sorry, we're going to go back to the tasks page, keeping in mind that first 2 weeks is going to take us some time. After that, we're going to speed up. I need you just to stay patient in regards to those brand tracking issues. And then right here, we're going to check out. So after we have done our faucet survey, performed all of the line cleaning and faucet tasks that we need to do for each location, we're loaded up in our vehicle, ready to hit the next account, we are going to check out. And these are our checkout options, and I referred to them earlier, but they're critically important for all of our reporting, so we want to make sure that we get them correct. Now, at the end of the day, we have reports that are going to trigger, that are going to show the statuses for each trip. It's critical that we are completing our trips on the days they're assigned. Of course, because next week is Thanksgiving week, you are going to have some where you have to go back and forth. But again, if we have instances where we have locations that, or wholesalers that we're servicing that are going to be sensitive to making sure that the trips are being performed on the same day the cooler is being signed, for instance, we want to make sure that we have good accounting all the way around, and we may need to flip-flop some of those trips on different days for you. So the checkout options, again, are due to the foreman icon, and let me just walk you through the statuses. So completed. Self-explanatory, 95% of your trips hopefully are going to fall into this. You came, you saw, you conquered, you move on. You click completed, that shakes it off your list and shows that all of the items were completed as necessary. Partially completed is going to be something like a large stadium. You go, or a service call down the road. You go in, you clean half of it or part of it, and you click partially completed at the end of day 1. You show up again day 2. When you check out on day 2 for that same location, you then go back to completed. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's typically for a status that's going to take more than one day. No work performed. I have never seen a service center where 5% of the trips don't fall into this no work performed status. No work performed is a status that we give to our technicians because you showed up at the location, you were ready to perform your service, and for whatever reason you got turned away or could not perform the service. Say they had no gas in the beer system. Say they have no beer. Say they were busy for lunch. Any of those instances that happen repeatedly around the country for people in our line of work, you're going to click no work performed. Cancel is a status we don't want to use unless something is closed permanently, and that flags it to us when we see red, and we get in contact with each other and figure out how we deal with that particular location. So if it's closed permanently, we want to know. Everything else should be falling into completed, partially completed, no work performed. So for this, I'm going to click completed. We're going to pop back to the overview page, and this is our trips page, and you're just going to continue on once you get to this location with the next one, check in, and go through all the checklists again. You may see some that have multiple systems. That's okay, and that's to be expected. Just make sure to maneuver through and check off everything you need to see. When you download the mobile application, another little note is that we want to make sure that you enable all of these things: Google Maps, directions, check for new messages. We also want to make sure that you have your auto updates on. Down the road, we have lots of updates on Draftline. Sometimes it's heavier than others, but we want to make sure that you have the latest version at all times. And if you just have your auto updates on, that's for the best because it just does it in the background and you don't have to think about it. We also have messaging, and that's pretty much it. It's a simple application. I already know that you guys are working with applications heavily, so I don't anticipate we're going to have any issues. One other thing to go over, because next week is Thanksgiving week, you can maneuver by date and you can click on the calendar icon and pop back and forth between your days. The reason why that's going to be important is if we haven't moved everything at the end of the day and you need to get back to Monday to, say, complete Twin Lakes Golf, we want to make sure that you're getting back to that. So these little status indicators here, this Rattlesnake Club trip I'm checked into, Hamlin Pub at the top of the screen, this is a no work performed. If we go back to the other page, this green circle with the checkbox, that one's completed. So for next week, because of the holiday, it's going to be very critical that you guys go back and make sure everything's showing those green circles with checkboxes that possibly can, to make sure that we're hitting all the stops we need to and that we can make sure that we're, maximizing everything we need to do for the service center. So as we move forward, you will have questions. Please, please, please just ask. If you have technical issues with logging into the phone or the wrong email or whatever, just reach out to us. Let us know. We are here to help. This is a tool to make you successful throughout your day and hopefully make everyone's lives easier in the long run. So thank you so much, guys. Good luck next week, and we'll be in touch. Take care.